Alright, we are recording. Continuing in Mad Max. Key was originally provided by WB Games back when I reviewed it. Is that 2015? 2016? It's been a while. This is an older game than it actually looks. Anyway, it is a fun game though. I'm probably just want to play. And I know I had a plan, I just don't quite remember what it was. Okay. So just as I'm thinking about it, it will be best to do because if I can get the threat level low enough, I can purchase some new stuff. Alright, and I do have news and such I can talk about. You know what, why don't I actually just do it in here? Instead of going out there, just work on this one since it's already pretty low. Are there minefield? Yes, there are. Don't have. I mean, I don't have them. Alright. We'll just head out. Yeah, so hang on, I need to turn this on.
If you're looking to gain the favor of the gods, you
get out there and fix it.
Sorry, I've been doing recordings and something else, and the audio there was a bit loud, so a bit low, so I had turned it up, but this is loud, so turn it back down. Alright, so yeah, I got some things I can talk about. I think the two most interesting would be, one is the disappointing thing is that apparently Microsoft has decided that the TPM 2.0 requirement for Windows 11 is firm, even though it seems very arbitrary, especially for those with 5-year-old systems. So yeah, in theory, my test system will be able to be upgraded. So I hit the wrong button. Whoop. I even went in and enabled TPM in the BIOS because I needed to start up because I'm collecting data for something. I can talk about that, but I have no idea when I will have that done, kind of thing. Alright, if he's running.
Don't stray.
But my laptop is undoubtedly too old. It's an Intel 4000 series CPU, so I don't doubt that I won't be able to upgrade that to Windows 11, which is fine because I've also been kind of wanting to replace the laptop for a while. It's still good, so I have no need to, but it does have some quirks. Like whenever I am on battery, the screen may start flickering. Don't know why. Very annoying. But yeah, the desktop though, in theory, I could enable FTPM, but the Windows install was the legacy version, which means it's an MBR formatted disk instead of a GPT, something like that disk. And it is possible to convert, but you risk losing data, and it's like, not worth it. Not worth it. Wait, there is one more? What more is So yeah, I'm just thinking that'll be how it works out for me. And hopefully I will have a job by the end of the year. I've been hoping that for many years though. Such that I'll just build a new desktop that would then be able to have Windows 11 on. Because I am left with the assumption that it will be necessary to upgrade for one reason or another. I know that like the direct storage API, that's limited. I'll be honest though, I also don't know just how necessary that's going to be in the future. I don't doubt it'll be nice, but I'm not sure how important it will be. But But no, the test system, though, in theory, that can be upgraded because I did, when I built it, I did install it correct. I did have the disk formatted. Well, I had it in the UEFI mode as opposed to the Legacy BIOS mode, which is MBR, Master Boot Record, as opposed to GPU ID, I think it is? Is that the name? I don't remember. I don't remember what the specific name of it is, but yeah, it's just how like partitions and such, formatting such is kept on the disk. At least I'm pretty sure that's what it is. And it is possible to convert. There are ways to do that. You can look them up. It's just, I don't feel like doing that on desktop. So the other thing I got that I think is interesting, and it's interesting for multiple reasons. One of which is just one of those, and it happens every now and then, where just there's something about tech media that saddens me. As in, like, this is something that tech media should do a better job of knowing. WCCF Tech has up a transcript of an interview they did with some Midgar Studio developers. That's just, pretty sure that is a studio. I really hope I'm remembering correct. Behind Edge of Eternity, which is a game I recently reviewed. Fun game, enjoyed it. Definitely, there are ways that need some help. That needs to be improved. But what's important about this game, and this is the thing that a lot of people forget, is that, well, it currently has DLSS support, and it will be getting Fidelity FX Super Resolution support. But for whatever reason, a lot of people, when talking about this stuff, just completely ignore Edge of Eternity. There's a different game that's coming out that will have support for both, and that's getting the attention. It's very weird and sad. Because it's like, I mean, come on, how it's not that hard to know better.
We are feared!
Yeah, I mean, it's not like it's not like Edge of Eternity isn't on the list for getting FSR, and yeah, maybe it's just a very sad thing that it's an indie game, so people don't realize it. Also, will admit though, I don't remember seeing any other reviews for it. It's a fun game though. It as I said, has its flaws. You can read the review or watch the review playthrough to figure that out. But it still is, you know, potentially, I don't know if that other game may beat it, but potentially will be the first game to support both FSR and DLSS. I really want to get through. I'll just walk it while you pay.
Sit tight.
Yes, gladly. It is my sacred place.
So, the information in the interview, though, that I think is so interesting, was there was a question not only about the quality, the image quality difference between them, but that also implementation. So how easy was it to get it working, FSR and DLSS working in Unity, which is the engine that they use for? And what they said was FSR was implemented in hours. Just it only took hours to add that to the pipeline, and it come on, brain, turn over. It did require some other tweaks that were separate because it's just a spatial upscaler. If there are issues in the image it's upscaling, it can't do anything about that.
I need in. There's got to be
There. Rid of that. There is another. So that is, they do point out that's one advantage that DLSS has, but then DLSS can also introduce its own artifact, so it's, you know, not perfect. Either way. But implementing a new TAA, which they also got from AMD, the Cauldron TAA, which is part of their GPU Open. implementing that took a few more hours, but it was to improve the TAA that's already... that's... The idea to implement it was because the TAA already in Unity was not good enough, that it wasn't looking as good as it could with FSR. But still, they were talking about that too, was hours to implement. DLSS, though, required significantly changing the engine. Like, they had to go in and write things to get... that would get... I went right by the entrance, didn't I? It gets... once we start getting into this, you know, multiple levels of navigating here. Anyway, yeah, the DLSS took them a lot longer to implement, which I do find somewhat interesting and amusing. The idea that DLSS, despite how old it is at this point, FSR, you know, this brand new thing, was the easier to implement of the two.
My black fingers itch for sacred work.
Come, crazy eyes. I read your soul has ill will for these Scrotus minions. You think you only reach their fort from Bridgement, but no. You can also use zip-zap line and sail down there to slay. They need a lesson in losing blood.
Okay.
The secret went far and joined together with the sacrament of the piston.
Hidden zipline to enter. But where is it hidden? I'd have to check the article, which I still have open. It's just, you know, I'm in the game. To try to... There was something more. Well, yeah, I'll just do that. Where was it? So it was... Okay. That's right. So the whole DLSS integration, because the like Unreal Engine 4 already has it pre-integrated into the engine. Unity is getting that. The person makes the point here, but it's only for the HDRP, which I'm pretty sure is Unity's HDR pipeline, which they didn't start making Engine Eternity on, so they couldn't go back and, you know, like, just enable that without having to rebuild the entire project. So it was basically, yeah, it's not worth doing. Because that would be on the order of just making the game. And I mean, hey, that's totally fair to be like, no, we're not doing this over again.
Oh, here it comes!
Obviously, though, as you know, for new games, that, you know, you just make the choice early on, make the decision early on, that's less of an issue. But it still is the whole, if FSR is so much easier to integrate, that is significant. I am very curious about where the zipline is. Maybe through here, though. Not unreasonable. They also did talk about the quality, which I think I did say it did. Oh, it is right here. Perfect. And that... I'm just trying to think of how exactly it said it. That at lower resolutions, it's not necessarily as good. You know, like on the order of 720p and 1080p. And the guy specifically said it's, you know, because DLSS is a reconstruction method and FSR isn't. You know, it's just spatial upscaling. So it can't add in detail that it doesn't know is already there. Now that is something that we may see come, because, I mean, this all manner of reconstruction. It's like, you know, morphological filtering. That is a reconstruction method. It is. I don't think people recognize it, but it is. It's trying to figure out what the original detail was. So you could figure some things out there. But the guy was talking about how, no, he's got a system where he plays it at 720, because it's only got an Intel CPU there, so it's also, you know, an Intel GPU, and that's all, you know, 720 is all it can manage for the game, for running the game. But with FSR, it works fine, and it looks good, so he's quite happy with it. Whereas when you get to like 4K, FSR looks fantastic. So yeah, it was an interesting thing to look at, especially if you are curious about the technology, and what we may see in the future with that. Oh. The other things I got... Oh, yeah, we can do that. Continue with the FSR talk. Somebody managed to mod Fidelity FX Super Resolution, which is not open source yet, but managed to mod it into GTA 5. How? In a way that's actually, you know, makes sense. Not necessarily what you'd think to do, first off, but it makes sense that this would work. He pulled the DLL from from another game that has it, a precompiled DLL, put it into the GTA 5 folder. Because applications will just load up the DLLs around them, at least games will. Because that's like how DXVK worked. Is you put the DLLs and then now it's, you know, running in Vulkan. And he also a INI file to set certain things with it. It's like that's all I had to do, and it was working, and working better than the built-in upscaler. I don't remember that GTA5 had that. It's been a while since I've even had the game installed.
Luxuries.
Said a weird thought about them. Okay. It's like, am I actually capturing? I don't know why I suddenly felt paranoid about it, but I did. So check. I'm gonna say I've been capturing all week. Well, not quite all week, but nearly all week in another game as well, and without issues. I don't know why I was doing this. And I don't mind mentioning that it's my Bada and Games thing that I also do, where I play a game while I'm like set with a heart rate monitor going, and also the gaze tracker. I've been doing that recently for Dead Rising 3. I'm enjoying that game. That's a fun game. I can recommend it, and I do like it better than Dead Rising 2 so far. Just it has a nice flow to the gameplay. Feels much smoother than I remember Dead Rising 2 feel. Okay. Everything went bluey.
Get him now! Do something! Free my brother!
Assist me!
So I have to focus on this. Perfect. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely neat that somebody managed to do that with GTA 5, and it is also therefore interesting to see what will come once it is open source. Or, yeah, once the source code is actually released. Which week or two? Because they said mid-July. Okay, I have already. Where it came from? More do I have? Now, obviously, adding it to other games is not necessarily going to be easy, especially because you want it put into the pipeline at the right spot so that you have it like before the UI, so you're not so that the UI is rendered at native resolution, and also before certain blur effects, certain post-processing effects, which, like, just injecting it as a shader, it's not necessarily going to achieve. Okay. Oh, that's finished. I don't know how the DLL would handle it, though. What that guy did, I don't know. Yes! Perfect. Unlocks so many. But yeah, it will be interesting to see what happens when that releases, when the source code releases. What else? Oh, yeah. Why don't I talk about that first? Because of the 3 things I've got left, that one's probably the more interesting. There's a rumor, only a rumor. Hopefully it ends up being true, though, because it's pretty cool. At least I think it is. But there is a rumor that Dead Space might be remade. And remade akin to one of the things I saw talking about, specifically commented on Resident Evil 2, which I would like to get some of those early, some of these recent remakes of Resident Evil. I don't know the Resident Evil game at all, but you know, like for the thing I'm talking about, where I play a game and quote myself with a heart rate monitor, I feel that those could be fun to do it with. But one thing was suggesting that it would try to be like the Resident Evil 2 remake in that it would be true to the original, but would upgrade different things to it. Which, yes, Dead Space could stand to have some quality of life improvement. When I played that and did the capture in it for the heart rate monitor, because I did do that with Dead Space. And Dead Space is a fun game as well. Perfect, all things are right here. Because of how its controls work, where for one thing it's like a forced mouse acceleration kind of thing, or inverted mouse acceleration. I don't remember. It's very awkward. But it's also, you need to actually hold a button down in order to even be in the aim mode. It's very uncomfortable. It's very awkward. What I did is I actually used the Steam controller that I have to a fuller extent of it being a Steam controller. By that I mean I took advantage of the different things it offers. So like right trigger. Oh man. Is the way that you I set it up so the right trigger, just pulling in the right trigger at all, so any activation would put me into aim mode, but then because there's also the actual button at the base of it, that would actually fire. And that worked fairly well. Need to get a drink of water, by the way. And also the trackpad, the right trackpad that I used for aiming, it wasn't that uncomfortable doing it that way, even though I'm really not a controller gamer. But yeah, the Steam controller made that so much easier to work, because it truly is that awkward to control on PC. Very much it is a controller game, which is sad, but if they do a remake, and I hope they do, that's something they could improve. I also, this may, as much as, yes, I do mock ray tracing, and it deserves to be mocked, I do believe. I do think that Dead Space might be a game that would benefit from, if not ray tracing, at least a new lighting pass to help get have it be a darker game. Because there are times when it's like, there's no power on the ship, so it would be neat if it were the lights on the suit and such, are more what illuminate the area. But that could also be just like redoing it for HDR. I'm gonna do this because I want to get the armor.
Killer. Little Count Carburetor says you need to bust through the jaw.
I'm going to Gastown.
I'm sure you are. Now me, I know a lot about Gastown and the jaw. I trade goods in and out of there all the time.
You want something? Say it.
Ain't no sweet talking to you, is there? All right. I seen that harpoon device of yours. Not bad. Needs a little something extra, though. Sort of a final flourish, let's say.
And that's where you come in.
The jaw looks imposing, but it's got a weakness. The hinges. Your harpoon could be the key. But not with that weak jag tip. You need a piece tougher. Something called the Talon.
And you have it.
I know who does. A nuisance of a noose man named Dimrim. And Dimrim could use a little lesson in manners. Him and his whole convoy.
So I relieve Dimrim of this talent. By force, I reckon. You and I square?
Yeah. Then we be square.
Alright. And I'll bet that might be the convoy that's over here.
Hey, killer! That Talon! You do well bringing that to Jeet. Yeah, that cocky kid, he knows that kind of stuff.
The one thing I would be concerned with, and I think a lot of people would be concerned with, concerning a Dead Space remake, is that it be Dead Space, not Dead Space 3.
God, Cash's words!
Some bandit called Dimrim has a jag tip for the harpoon, called the Talon. I'm gonna take you from him.
Indeed? Yes, we need something stronger. Yes, but I doubt anyone will give this Talon up without a fight.
I need it, I go get it. What happens, happens.
Yep, perfect. Alright, Dead Space, to me, of the 3 games, and I have played all, is an action horror game, but it has a much better focus on the horror and much better handle on the horror. Dead Space 2 is still action horror, but it does lean a bit more towards action. Or at least it leans more towards action than the first one is. It's still a fun game, but it's not nearly as scary. It doesn't do the horror as well as the first one. Dead Space 3, though, was... I mean, it was like, this is a horror game? It's just action, not even always that interesting. I mean, they did make a horror game, a co-op horror. I mean, it's like that they deserved to be mocked for that. And also the who was... There's a VP that prided himself on the whole he only greenlit projects that had a social, some kind of social integration, which Dead Space 3 had. You could integrate, but you could have it like share things to Twitter automatically. Not like anyone really cares. I mean, it's a horror game. Why do you need that? But still, Dead Space is good enough that you could stick to it very closely and just do more technical stuff, and a lot of people would be happy at it. So, assuming that it is true, they have a very good base to work with. Yeah. The other two things I have, one is that apparently EVGA, this longtime, very, very close partner of NVIDIA, is gonna work with AMD some. Not on GPUs though, motherboards. Yeah, EVGA, I don't know when the last time was. I don't follow them much concerning their motherboards anyway. But I don't remember when the last time was that they did a motherboard. But yeah, they're going to do an AMD motherboard apparently. I haven't looked at the thing myself, but yeah, that's coming. That's definitely neat because EVGA, they are serious about their motherboards. You know, they do make some very high quality and have made very high quality motherboards before. So yeah, it's
It will tear that tire right off.
it matters. Now, I haven't seen any speculation like, oh, could this mean that EVGA would do an AMD graphics card? I am sure the answer is no. That they have that close relationship with NVIDIA and they will never jeopardize that. Because it's also, they don't need to. There would be no benefit to them for doing that.
Protect yourself. But don't be long, please.
I mean, whatever money they might make by virtue of, you know, also having AMD GPUs to sell, how much would they lose because they would no longer be an exclusive partner? And I don't mean that as in like NVIDIA wouldn't give them money. I have no idea. Maybe they don't get any special money from NVIDIA or anything like that. I just mean they get a certain reputation from being NVIDIA exclusive. I mean, it is a go-to brand for an NVIDIA GPU for a lot of people. Where it's like, oh, I want to get a new NVIDIA GPUs, I'm checking EVGA first. You would not want to compromise that. And the same would be true for AMD and Sapphire. How they are also as close to first-party manufactured GPUs as EVGA. You would not compromise that. So yeah, I mean, it still is big news that EVGA is going to do apparently an AMD chipset motherboard. But yeah, it's for anyone thinking that it might go beyond that. I am quite certain the answer there is an easy and firm no. The last thing I made note of is, so I don't remember how many months ago it was now. AMD announced that they were going to wish to acquire Xilinx, which is an FPGA company, field programmable gate array, which is really neat. It's basically a chip, a processor that you can rewire after the fact. Seriously, that's what you can do. And it's used in certain special things like developing. It's used for AI acceleration because you can actually like change layout of the chip so that you can improve your design. I think it's also used in networking. I don't remember, but Xilinx and FPGAs are present in a lot of server workload. So that would be. There we go. That was, you know, what AMD would almost certainly be working on. Would try to be improving by this acquisition.
Hurry! Smoke attracts scavengers.
And it has passed now the UK regulatory hurdle.
So this is a Talon.
because like many
How does this
acquisitions
help me?
finish.
Into a corridor, huh? An unprofane figure. Made to muck amongst these heathen. This is a job for Cheat. He's a master of projectile and weapons and blastings. You'll know what to do. Away from the bar!
I want to pull the guy out of it. Let me do this.
There! See? The deadliest of storms are coming!
We can outrun it.
I still think that's what we're trying.
Fuck, yeah, it's well.
Okay. And let's head over to Cheat with this. Because the magnum opus will be brought up for automatic. But yeah, so that passing regulatory hurdle is important. It will be interesting to see what ends up coming of the acquisition, like what might AMD be able to offer some of its customers. And understand this, it would be like servers, data centers, the stuff that AMD signs the multi-million-dollar contracts. Which reminds me, where was it that I saw somebody talking about how like somebody getting Epic server chips, or at least server chips. I think it was Epic though, at like a third the list price, and people were like, yeah, so people that understand that, yeah, that's when you're ordering 1,000 parts at a time, even cutting down to a third can be arranged. I don't think this thing is going to survive all the way. Man, this storm had bad timing for me. Oh no, I actually might make it because I recognize it. We're right here. Shit. I think that's the second time I've done that. Ow. Whoops. You know what? We're just... Oh, it won't let me. Will it let me now? Damn. Oh, there it is. Perfect. And I'll heal when I'm in there. But yeah, I mean, it's true. $1,000? Well, a third of the price. Why did I say $1,000? But a third of the price. That's definitely a discount. But I mean, yeah, it's also one of those things that might be easier to do thanks to the chiplet design.
That sounds like guck-ass, John. But it's possible. With a pinch of black magic.
What do you know?
Oh, you got balls the size of Bojo's. And you done us some good, granted. So hear me. You'll need to get your harpoon reinforced to get through that first gate. Easy. But your biggest hurdle are those hinges. That's why it all calls for some black magic.
Explosives.
With the Talon builds you an explosive jag tip, those hinges right off.
Let's do it.
I don't
I hear him calling.
care about upgrading that one at the moment.
Do you? A big chief in Gastown wants collecting.
And I'm gonna go back to
Pick a target.
Gut Gash. By the way, I mean, keep clearing that. It's just I wanted to advance this stuff because maybe I'm wrong, but I thought that it was I need to do that to unlock more of the armor.
Trigger fingers.
My nugget. Fine. Whatever. You may proceed.
Oh, it's a beauty cycle. Such fun. Can you feel it? Huh? We're ready for the job. Huh? Ready as we'll ever be.
Keep the car safe.
Sure. Maybe you'll find something useful for us.
The other two. But yeah, just my comment about the whole chiplet stuff. Why I information there, but anyway, the whole, it's, and this goes back into the original Zen with the Zeppelin dies. The fact that AMD had a single design and you just bend. How well does it perform? How efficient does it perform? That determines what product it goes into. That's a way to dramatically decrease cost while still having a complete product stack. So yeah, I can see that being something that would enable when somebody's placing an order for 1,000 CPUs, enable you to be like, okay, we'll cut it down to a third. And it's also worth noting that I would think that a deal like that, hypothetical deal like that, 1,000 CPUs, that's not just paying for the hardware, that there would also be a service contract. I would think that, and I could be completely wrong there, but like AMD would continue to make money over time providing the service for it. That is a guess from me, but that would make some sense that there would be something going forward. There. Yeah, let's go see about this intel, but I'm not gonna drive into Dead Baron's Pass yet. Dead Baron. Yeah, it is Dead Baron. The S there. Ah.
Look, the tanks are in the open.
Just trying to think if there's anything else. I had the Dying to Know episode 2 this week, which I did forget about. I'm sorry, I really am. It just slipped my mind because I was focused on the Dead Rising 3 stuff, the captures in that. And yeah, it just happened to me last week as well with the,
Our enemies approach.
there we go. With the Windows 11 announcement. Although that time it was the last spell. Which I wasn't recording, although I wish I was, because that was specifically good match in that game. But yeah, they shared a whole bunch of stuff, including a gameplay trailer. Well, it shows gameplay going through an old, what was GRE hospital that is now inhabited by the infected, and it was interesting to watch. And I do want to one of the things in it that is
Now this car will need more work.
There is Inca,
important,
an ancient lady of war and racing.
more or less, it's relevant to what I was saying earlier. Concerning Dead Space, the lighting in that looked good as far as like how it was very dark. Except for the actual light sources, as opposed to some games there is like just an ambient light so that you can always see. I think Dead Space had that a little bit.
For sparing me, I shall say this. To pass that jaw, you will need real thunder, real explosives.
So achieving that kind of look in... Thought I parked on that. Anyway, achieving that in the in a hypothetical, because it is only hypothetical at the moment, remake would be cool, I think. And I want to check, how long have I been going? I know it's not been an hour yet. I can go a little bit longer. Yeah. Yeah. How do I know it's not been an hour yet? I kind of mentioned it, but haven't explained what. Oh yeah, that's right. I have to figure out how to get it there. Okay. So, well, hold on. This guy may be talking, so I guess I'll wait. Oh.
Hey, keep your head down. There's a lead slinger slinging lead yonder. If you want to keep that fine car of yours hole-free, you do well just killing that long-shooting roach.
Okay.
The glint of glass! It's a shooter! Look how it hit home!
I don't think it's... I talked to him again. I might go over there. So, months ago now, an article I wrote relating to some scripts I had made, including, well, 3 articles went live at about the same time. All 3 concerning some scripts I had made. 2 of them were scripts that, were for, the 2 of the articles were concerning scripts that I made for the CPU that would load the CPU and monitor it for like temperature and frequency and power usage over the length of the load time, the test period. And then a 3rd one that was similar, but it would be for the GPU instead. So I've been working on some follow-up stuff for that. The follow-up CPU article probably won't be put up on OCC, just because it's part of it is me like going through and writing up on all the scripts. I guess I haven't revised yet. Well, no, it wouldn't make sense to go through it. And make it so I could make a version for OCC. But I made some improvements to the scripts for that, but now I'm collecting more data for the GPU one because I went through those scripts and cleaned that up as well. And I'm writing an article about that, and that probably will have stuff go up on OCC because I added some new things that then made it worth my time to go through and collect the data on 7 of the 8 GPUs I have. I didn't collect any data for the RX 580 in the desktop because it's 2 hours in 5 minutes for a single run, because the test period is an hour long and then the cooldown is an hour long. It's like, I don't want to not lock down my desktop for that long. Use it for too many things.
Hey, you know roadkill. You that warrior. The one they say kills roadkill. You're looking to kill more. There's a bunch inside. A war buckler even. But look, there's a hidden path up to the camp from the canyon.
Oh, there. Felt there should be some. And I think the path is. Looks about. But yeah, so I'm still like doing the write-up for the article, and is going to have what I will write will have stuff documenting the scripts, which I'll probably cut out because crap. I honestly don't think that's going to be of great interest for OCC to have it there. I will share it just somewhere. But yeah, I have the data already for constant loads, so the load being for the entire length of the test. Now I'm also collect that data. Let's go. Aw, man. I have to talk to her again.
Ready for the job, ready as we'll ever be.
Now I'm collecting data where it pulses. The workload actually pulses on and off. So yeah, that'll be interesting to see. I'm also experimenting with a new thing that, well, new for me at least, a kind of statistical analysis that I really don't know much about, but it could still be interesting to look at. And it may also allow for some information not previously visible to be visible. So not around that way, maybe around this way.
When I spied you acting so deftly in the onlookers. Oh, I know. You were special. So unlike the savages. Hardness. And taste. Get another oil pump chunking up the crude.
He survived that? Well, whatever. I figure finishing, doing this area, this camp will be how I end. Which also I just remembered, next week I might not have one. Just basically the vacation time kind of thing. We'll see though. I might be able to do a recording for leaving, but it won't be recorded on Friday to go live Saturday, like it is right now. So, wait. I'm just really curious about what this other end. Okay, that was the other thing that they were talking about, a bridge that's defended.
Actually,
I don't think there's anything else. I did see rumors concerning the RX 6600, so that would be the next AMD RDNA 2 GPU, which I'm curious about as far as how that will compare to the RX 580. For multiple reasons. One being I have an RX 580, but also because the 580 has proven to be like the undying GPU for AMD. Just for its pricing, it really offered so much performance when it came out, and still does. It's still a very good, very good GPU. It's like yes, it would be nice if I could always turn settings up all the way, or always know I'll have over 60 FPS performance in games. That would be nice, but it handles everything I throw at it quite well. I mean, now it would be a 1080p class GPU, but it was, 1440p punching GPU for quite a while after it came out. And depending on the games you play, it still is. So that does make me curious then about how this 6600 might be in comparison to. Because it would have the benefit of various new technologies that are not available for the 580.
Boy, boy! Protect the camp!
These drug beats will echo in full horror!
Glory!
Get up!
But it also, something funny with the RX 580's legacy is that AMD did release the 5500 XT, so an RDNA 1 GPU that in theory should have replaced it and didn't. I think a lot of people said that it was basically because of pricing, that it should have been priced a little lower to really unseat the 580. I don't remember exactly, but it's, the 6600 potentially could maybe finally do it. The rumor did indicate that it's a single 8-pin power connection, which does match the 580. Although true, in theory that's 225 watts that can be pulled, because it's 150 from the 8-pin, but the PCIe slot itself can provide 75 watts. But the 580 is a 150 watt card. It is funny how it seems that so often they don't use the PCIe slot power for things. Which, I guess makes some sense, because then you're not having to pull as much power through the motherboard. There's a reason why some motherboards have a PCIe 8-pin connection on them, so that you can supply additional power, and they're typically to the south of the PCIe slots, so near it you don't need to have power running through the entire motherboard. But it's still interesting that it seems like AMD and NVIDIA both try to almost never use the power from the slot. But that does also remind me of something. Just some silliness that DeBauer did. This was a while ago. Yeah. If I remember correctly, what he did was he basically wired up a Radeon 7, which is 3.8 to... Is that right? Crap, I don't remember exactly what the hardware involved. But he wired up a power-hungry GPU to just PCIe slots, where he took PCIe connectors, connected the wires to like 8-pin connectors, and had a graphics card powered exclusively off the motherboard that way. And I think there was also one where he had clipped off wires as well, so they were like fewer ground wires and such. I mean, it's kind of a statement as far as, yes, this stuff is over-engineered. That there is really not that big a risk for various things if you have quality parts. Just if you're old enough like me to remember the RX 480 controversy, that really was not a controversy. How people were like, oh my god, this card will draw 150 watts, which means, because it had a 6-pin connector, which is 75 watts, and the slot, people were like, oh, it's going to draw too much power doing that, and some also declared that there's no way to fix this, and then AMD fixed it. Okay, I have to go this way. I don't remember where it was, but there was one place that they hooked up a 480 and just had it running 24/7 prior to the fix, just to show that, yeah, modern... And this was also dated hardware that they used it on, actually. And it was like, they're like, yeah, it's working. There's no problem here. This is the actual... But yeah, what DeBauer did was still just one of those, this is kind of excessive to even try. But very interesting. He does do some neat stuff. And also, that reminds me, for anyone curious about computer cases, he recently put up a video showcasing the Lian Li 011 Dynamic Evo. So he had, for those of you who don't know, DeBauer is a German extreme overclocker, and he has partnerships with various companies. Thermal Grizzly is one. I think, well, he works with Thermal Grizzly and stuff. He also has some kind of connection to Seagate, because they sponsor a lot of videos. I just don't know if they exist as a sponsor for him, or if he actually does some work. But Lian Li is another company that he does work with. The 011 Dynamic case is one that he helped design. And so they're working on a new version, the Evo version, and he was given a prototype that, you know, he's looking at because his name will be on it. And I don't think there's any get up there. And he you know, shared a video going through some of this stuff. And it is interesting. I don't know if I would myself go with a Lian Li case at all, just because they can be kind of expensive. But also that specifically because it is more so designed for custom cooling, and I just don't know if I would bother with a build, to be honest. I don't feel...
Keep an eye out. No
For
surprises.
something akin to my desktop, I could, because I don't really mess with it much. I couldn't do it for the test system. Except for the CPU. There I could do that. I want to find the last piece of scrap before going. But it's still a very neat looking case, and it does have some neat things to it. One thing that I don't necessarily like is one element of its design where the front panel I/O is. It's actually along the bottom of the case, which is fine if you keep your computer case on your desk, like it's elevated. I don't do that. I've always had my case, you know, not necessarily on the ground, but below the level of the desktop. So yeah, that wouldn't really work well for me. I mean, theory, because it's actually something that you can move around. In theory, that would mean then that I could,
Roll up closer in this.
you know, try to reposition it to be better for me, but, you know, it's still I'd have to, you know, do that. But it's also, it's like, I really like the Cooler Master Q300L that, yeah, it's L. There's some variants. But I do like that for the test system, in part because I can have it on its side. So, like, the GPU is downward rather than, like, it's the slot itself is perpendicular to the ground as opposed to being yeah, this is not a good situation. As opposed to being parallel to the ground, which is how it is in desktop and most desktop cases. You know how you can do the vertical mounting of a GPU? That's how, with having the case on its side, that's how the GPU always is, and that makes swapping them out much easier. Because then, you know, like when pushing them in, I'm pushing to the ground. I'm not pushing to the back of the case, which means I need to be holding the back of the case to make sure I'm not just pushing the case over. Or otherwise be careful so I don't just push the case over. But you don't find many cases that support that kind of orientation. With the motherboard also being flat relative to the ground. There. Dealt with. Trying to think. What else? Damn it. I meant R for reload. Oh, it did stop. That's not. Well, it did. Yeah. Yeah, Thermaltake has some cube cases that can have the motherboard effectively flat, but some of those, they're huge. Way more than I think is really necessary. By that I mean, like, it's almost like double the depth of it is almost like double that you need for a motherboard. It is that deep. And I can understand that because, you know, they are designing it for liquid cooling, and it's like, oh, now you have all this free space you can run the tubes through. It's like, yeah, but I feel like you could still lop off, you know, a few inches and no one would really complain. Although it does allow you to have the 420 radiators in the top. It's like a smaller, a more compact version of this case would work fine for what I would like in a case. But it's, you know, if I do another build, which would mean I have a job, it'll be the end of the year, so what the hell do I get for a while yet?
What a driver. You're good. Real good.
See? He's that driver.
Just where is... Oh, is that it? That might be it.
You... over here.
No.
Please help me.
Not just now. Yeah, that's hope. No. Perfect. That's actually super useful. Because that's the one I would most want. But that'll be for next time. Where? Trying to think what else. Ah, there's. Is there anything else? mention... Nothing's coming to mind. I may... I don't know. Haven't committed to it. I may have another... Well,
I think we might actually make it.
I may have another keyboard article besides just switching, which I do need to do that right up soon. I may have another keyboard article to do. I just don't know yet. Should be getting the a macropad kit I ordered soon. And it could be fun to do that right up. I just don't know yet if I want to. Oh, geez, I actually did have that much. I wasn't paying attention to how much money I had. In that case, then. Might as well upgrade those. Yeah, that's in the next territory, so can't do anything with that yet. Alright. Actually, I should also... I don't think there's... I'm almost there. That's already upgraded. Okay. Alright, so... that's it for now. I'm just waiting until I'm actually quit it out to stop the video. I guess I could quickly mention, yeah, with the GPU work that I'm doing when I'm collecting the data also with pulsing. It's interesting. I haven't finished yet, but there are some interesting results there. I mean, it's also just interesting to look at the behavior across multiple generations of, especially NVIDIA GPUs. Because I only have the two AMD GPUs. The Vega 64 that I will be doing the testing with, and the RX 580 that I won't be. But with NVIDIA, I got the GTX 770, GTX 980, the 1070, the 1080, and then the RTX 2060 and the RTX 2080. And being able to see how things are different between them, how things are similar between them, and how things changed over time. Like how the GTX 770 didn't really have dynamic boosting down. It would have had idle clock, 2D clock, and 3D clock. So, you know, look at the graph and it's like, you know, solid line for the frequency. Whereas I think the 980, I can actually quickly look at that. But I think the 980, and it does, yeah, the 980 is actually able to boost. It's not just looking at, you know, 3 different clocks that it's allowed to take. It actually can go to a higher frequency if it feels it can. It's like that is a significant change, but even then there's some stuff to look at inside of that, which is part of the reason why I'm going through to collect the pulsing data, because that you can, with the pulsing, that means that there's a period when the GPU is able to rest. So assuming it works on a boost budget system like CPUs do, I think it is reasonable to think that then the boost budget has some time to fill up, so it can go back to a higher frequency when it next loads up. But yeah, it's interesting to look at. Very interesting. Alright, I shall stop talking now. Wow, an hour and 15 minutes. I did not mean to go this long. I enjoy the game though, so give me a break. Alright, see you next time.